Joining me now, Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, Fox News political analyst. Newt, the verdict handed down, the president did not seem surprised by this. As a historical matter, how significant is this?
Well, I think it's potentially very significant depending on what happens this fall. You have now the most corrupt system going after a political leader in American history. We've never seen anything like this. I think it has a couple of problems. One is that Donald Trump has grown in stature all through this experience. I mean, the number of people who say to me they can't imagine how he's been able to stand up and take this kind of a beating and keep coming. I think he's now a bigger figure than he was when the trial started, and it's one of the things the left doesn't understand. I also think that the depth of the corruption is going to change things. And by the way, it doesn't solve any of Biden's problems. People are going to go to the grocery store, and they're going to find it's too expensive. They're going to find they can't afford to buy a house. They're going to find that gasoline is going to start back up again. They're going to find that there are illegal immigrants. None of this is going to affect the long run. And I think, as you were saying earlier, and this happened, ironically, the website for Donald Trump collapsed this afternoon because so many people went to it spontaneously. I think you're going to find people who are for Trump are deeply enraged, feel that not only is this a sad day, but it's an infuriating day. And I think that the amount of energy that's going to be available for Trump is going to go up very, very dramatically, while it's clear that you have a cognitively impaired, decaying president who can barely figure out what he's doing.
Well, Newt, I think the left doesn't quite understand that it's bitten off more than it can chew here. Because Trump campaigned from the very beginning as an outsider. And a lot of people said, well, you got into power. You're part of the now elite GOP establishment of a sort. So you can't really claim to be an outsider anymore. You already were on the inside. But he is the ultimate outsider now, fighting against a corrupt establishment that will even subvert a justice system to cling to power. At the same time, the Democrats say Trump's never going to leave office. If he's elected, he's never going to leave office. Well, what does it look like tonight, Newt? That Biden never will leave office.
Look, and remember this, every American has to remember a government big enough to take on a billionaire former president and frontrunner this year. A government that'll take him on can destroy the rest of us. This really is a vote this fall between going back to the Constitution with Trump or the establishment of a dictatorship in which the people who are corrupt tell the rest of us, do what we want you to, or else we'll destroy you the way we destroyed Trump. I think this, in that sense, this is an extraordinarily important moment, depending on how the American people respond. And personally, I believe deeply in the American people. I do not believe the American people want government to control them. I don't think the American people want Joe Biden to dominate them. And I don't think they're dumb enough to believe that any of this is fair. So I think the net advantage will be over the next 6 weeks, enormous increase in strength for Trump and a real problem for the left as it begins to realize that there may be nothing it can do to stop him from becoming president.
Let's fast forward to the debates for a moment, Newt, and how today's news makes them even more important, and the way Trump comports himself during these debates, given what's happened with this news. What would your best advice be, given that we know Biden is going to try to egg Trump on, but you're a convicted felon? Like, that's going to be the Biden attack at this debate, no doubt about it.
Look, I mean, my advice would be the smaller and pettier Biden gets, the bigger and more historic Trump should get. Trump should go into that debate as the spokesperson for the American people, as a visionary who wants a better future, as a man who delivered a far better past than Joe Biden, and not get involved in mud wrestling with Joe Biden. Remember, by the time you get there, you're going to have all of Hunter Biden's problems out in the open. You're going to have a lot of other things going on. And frankly, a little bit like Reagan, who said, there you go again, in his debate with Carter. I would just ask, as often as I could in the debate, have you been to a grocery store recently, Joe? Do you have any idea what the American people are suffering? And I would just go back to that over and over again, and because that is the strongest single condemnation among. We have a project called the America's New Majority Project that does tremendous amount of polling. African Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, it doesn't matter. Everybody in America is hurting financially, and Trump ought to be calling and saying,
we need a new coalition.
I did everything I could to stop it, and I think we're going to get a new coalition. Trump's running ahead now in every one of those groups from what he's ever done. He's stronger now than any Republican since Eisenhower with African Americans. It's that big a difference.
Yeah, and that's what has the left freaking out. Newt, thank you as always.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.